Hope everybody is doing well. For anybody who's here for the first time, my name is Luke Dicka. I'm the creator of French Horn Rescue, which is the only group that was created 100% for the purpose of helping everybody out there who is currently not where they want to be in their playing, to help um, to eliminate the problems that they've been facing throughout their entire horn playing lives, and also to maximize your potential as a human being and a musician. So today we're going to talk a little bit about equipment choice. So this is such a deep rabbit hole that I'm going to try and stay mostly in the generalities of what we're looking for on an instrument. Excuse me, and I don't claim to be an expert in this by any means. I have played a decent amount of instruments, but I have actually been on the same instrument for the past 10 years, and I don't change my own setup too often. But I'll offer the insights that I've learned from talking with other players, and just again we'll be speaking mostly in generalities to help you to get onto the instrument that's going to most help you to get into the sound that you're exactly looking for. So when it comes to equipment, the one question that it really all boils down to is this: who do you want to sound like? So do you want to sound like a specific player? Do you want to sound like a specific section? For instance, if you want to sound like Stefan Dorr, then probably the first instrument that you're going to want to try out is an Alexander 103, and probably a new one, because the folks in Berlin tend to play the newer instruments that Alexander makes. If you want to sound like Tim Jones out in the London Symphony, then you probably want to try a Paxman first and see if that's getting you to where you want to be. So just think along those lines. If you know somebody, if you know somebody's playing that you really adore and you want to sound just like them, then try out the instrument that they're playing if you can. And that's where it's really great to be able to go out to things like International Horn Symposium conferences, and also different smaller conferences throughout the country. There's lots of different ones that happen throughout the year. And if not, you can always order something to try from somebody like Ken Pope or different people. And the different people around Facebook. There's many different places and there are many different people who are selling instruments on Facebook. And usually they're nice enough to let you to get a trial of the instrument for free for a little while to make sure it fits for you. So the other side of that is, if you like a certain section sound, like you really love the way Chicago sounds today, then try a Lewis. Go down there and see what a Lewis sounds like for you and how it feels. Let's say that you really love the Cleveland sound with George Zell, then you're probably going to want to go to a Vintage 8D, because that sound in particular is hard to replicate on other instruments, although it is possible. So that's the first thing you should try, but it can be a little bit more complicated than that. So let's take a player like Dave Crable, who's one of my favorite orchestral players, if not my very favorite. So Crable played a variety of instruments throughout his career, including standard double horns and descant horns. So that makes things a little bit more complex, because with that, I don't know exactly which instrument he was playing on each individual recording. I could probably reach out and ask him, and he would tell me. But if you want to make a choice within the next week or two, then that's probably not going to work out too well. The other thing is, or another example of this is somebody like Hermann Baumann, who was known to switch instruments pretty frequently depending on what he wanted from each individual recording. For instance, he was on an Alexander 107V for his famous recording of the Schuch Concerto, and that he also did the Schumann Concertstück on that horn as well. And I was pretty shocked to learn that he also used a Krispel a lot, which we'll talk about this in a little bit, because Krispel instruments are typically known for the darker tone color, and Baumann is really not quite bright most of the time, and quite bright, and just very much of that singing tone quality is more of the tenor tone quality. That's how I tend to think of his playing, and so the awesome thing about Baumann was that he always pretty much sounded the same. Like if you listen to those two recordings side by side, you'll see that he sounds pretty similar. The Krishna recordings are a little bit darker, of course, just because of the instrument and because it's a double horn instead of a descant. But from the very first notes, we know it's Bauman. So how could that possibly be? And then from there's really two questions that we're going to want to ask. And the first is, did he play the same mouthpiece on both recordings? Because if you keep the mouthpiece consistent, that's going to eliminate some variables, and that's going to enable you to sound more similar when you're going from instrument to instrument. However, I'd be willing to bet that he didn't, because most players will switch mouthpieces when they go to a descant instrument. So why did he sound so similar on both recordings, despite playing such radically different instruments? And the answer is that Bauman was Bauman and nobody else. He had a unique lip structure, oral cavity structure, body composition that was just him, and throat shape and etc. That was totally unique to him and his playing, and so this is true for you too. So everything that or every instrument that you go to play will be 100% influenced by your unique, again, oral cavity, throat shape, body composition, lip size. Everything is going to make you sound like you on any particular instrument that you're playing on, which is very cool. But it can be a little frustrating if you want to sound like a certain other player. This is something that I think is unique to brass instruments. I don't think it has quite the same effect on other instruments like piano and guitar and other string instruments because of how much our resonance depends. It's like a singer. Like every single singer and every single voice is unique. There are some people who sound kind of similar, but there's really there's no way to sound exactly like somebody else. So, all that being said, there are some generalizations that we can make that will help you to get dialed into the exact color that you're looking to produce. And as I mentioned earlier, so Krishba and Krishba style instruments, so these would be your Con 8Ds, Hans Hoyer 6802, pretty much every Holton design is based on the original Krishba model. I played a Holton H181 for a long time. In high school I played an H179. And those are generally going to have a darker tone quality, while Geyer style instruments, which is your Yamaha 667, your Schmid, Alexander 503, which I think I'm the only person in the US who is playing this one at the moment. Maybe not, but I've never met anybody else who plays it. So that's my current instrument. Like I said, I've been on for about 10 years, and generally, those are going to have a brighter tone quality because usually on a Geyer style instrument, the bell throat is smaller and the bell itself is smaller. And the material of the horn will also affect the sound a lot too. So with a nickel silver instrument, it's going to be considerably darker than anything made of yellow brass. And coincidentally, most nickel silver instruments are going to be Krishbas, which it contributes into. It's kind of like putting molasses on honey. It makes the dark sound even darker. So you're combining the bigger bell throat, bigger bell size with the nickel silver. That's just going to help everything to be even darker. So again, if you want to hear exactly what that sounds like, you can go listen to any of the Cleveland recordings with George Zell. You can go listen to any of the New York recordings with Bernstein, and you can listen to most Hollywood horn recordings that are going to be done on that style of instrument too. So, the secondary question that you're going to want to ask when you're getting into buying an instrument are you playing just for fun, or are you aspiring to be a full-time orchestral player? And no matter what you're doing, I'm going to recommend that you get the highest quality instrument that you can afford because it's going to help you maximize the enjoyment of the instrument. If the instrument is made well, it's going to just make things more fun for you, and it's going to make your music making more enjoyable, and it's going to make things more enjoyable for your listeners and it's going to help you to help spread your joy through music with others more easily. However, if you are going into playing music full time, let's say you're in school right now, either undergraduate or master's, or if you're currently in the audition circuit, you're looking to audition to be in a professional orchestra, you're gonna have to consider where you are in the U.S. and in the world. So in the U.S., most of the orchestras around really anywhere besides Cleveland are going to be playing on Geyer style instruments. So if you go into audition with a Krishna style instrument, then I will say this, the most important thing is that you just play the snot out of the instrument and you just play really well, and it's comfortable for you, and it's playing the sound that you really want. But if you are neck and neck with somebody else and they're playing a Geyer and playing something that's a little bit more similar to what the conductor and the orchestra have in mind, it's not really fair, but they're probably going to go with the person playing on the instrument that produces the sound that they're really looking for. And so that's just something for you to consider. Like I said, the most important thing is that you're on an instrument that you feel good on, that does the things that you want to do really well, that you can produce a great sound on. And then the cherry on top is like if you play something that they really are looking for. And they can always ask you to switch your instrument once you're in there as well. If you're a freelancer like I am, it's a little bit less important, but it makes things a little bit easier to blend if you're playing a similar instrument to what most people are playing. So for most of the orchestras I play in, it's a mixed bag, but I would say probably 80 to 90% of people are playing on Garia style instruments. And usually the Krishvas only show up in some of the lower level ensembles where there's maybe some community members mixed in too. And that's really unfortunate because I find Krishna instruments really beautiful. I didn't know as much when I was younger, but I just, I could listen to Myron Bloom play all day. Vince DeRosa, they were just such wonderful players, and I love that sound as well as the typical Alexander sound that I'm really going for when I'm on my instrument. And so, like I said, in the U.S., most people are going to be on Geyers. In other parts of the world, the standard instrument will vary. So in the UK, you're going to find a lot of Alexander and Paxman models being played. I'd have to take a look at the current LSO setup. Traditionally, the LSO is the one in the UK that's a little bit darker, and some of those guys were playing ADs for a while. But I know obviously Tim Jones is on a Paxman, but I don't know if anybody else is on anything darker currently. So, and then if you go to a place like Germany, it's going to be a lot of Alexander. It's going to be a lot of the German makers on the instrument, providing the instruments that are playing in those groups. And so you just have to consider where you are at in the world and what you want to sound like, and how easily do you want to be able to blend with the section, and how is the instrument that you're playing going to be affect whether or not you're going to be able to sound like what the people are used to hearing. So like I said, it's a little bit unfair. And so if you're living in LA and you want to play in the studios, but you just happen to really love, Bauman or Stefan Dorr or somebody like that who plays a little bit of a smaller instrument, it's probably not going to work out super well. There's always exceptions to the rule. I mean, Jim Decker, of course, who is my horn grandfather, played in Alex through all of his recordings, but in today's age, it's pretty tough. You would have to be such an exceptional player to be able to do something like that. Likewise, if you want to go out to, or if you're living in Germany right now, or the UK, or one of the other European countries, and you just like love the American Hollywood horn sound, and you will just want to play a big old Krishna rap, it might not work out super great for you. It might. There's always exceptions to every rule, but those are just things to consider when you're getting onto a new instrument. So, like I said, the best way to do this is to find some sort of gathering of horn players, whether it's an IHS or a smaller conference. Find out where there's a bunch of horns. Hopefully the makers are there so you can actually talk with them and see exactly which instrument's best for you, because those guys understand the construction of instruments and the acoustics like way better than somebody like me, who's just a professional player. And some of those guys are fantastic players themselves. Engelbert Schmidt, for instance, in Ken Pope, they definitely still get on the instruments a lot, and they try all their instruments, and this they know exactly what's going on. It's not a prerequisite. There's many great makers who don't play really at all, and they just happen to make really phenomenal instruments. Carl Geyer was that way. So all that aside, like I said, let's just say, for example, sake, we've decided that we're in America. Let's say that we're in Detroit, where I'm at. Pretty much everybody around here is playing a Geyer style instrument. You're like, okay, I really like Stefan Dor sound. I want to sound like Stefan. I'm going to start out trying an Alexander 103. So you find a conference or you order an instrument online and you try it out and you say, all right, what am I looking for? What do I want to do here to really figure out if this instrument's what I'm looking for? There's a few things you should do. You want to make sure that you play throughout the entire chromatic range of the instrument. You want to play something really high. You want to play something high and loud, something low and loud, low and soft, high and soft, etc. You want to just find every single combination of what you're going to be doing in your daily life. And so a great way to do this is to, like I said, play some scales, play some slurs, make sure that the articulation is what you're looking for. And then I would personally play something that I'm working on currently. So if you're working on a Mozart concerto or a Strauss concerto, or you're working on some excerpts, go through them and see how they feel as compared to your current instrument. And one caveat to that is to make sure that you are playing the same mouthpiece that you've been playing on your current instrument. But you don't want to be trying a different mouthpiece and a different horn at the same time. You want to keep things consistent and take out the variables. So ideally, you would be able to do this away from the room where everybody else is, so you can get a good example of how the instrument feels. So if you're at a conference, go into a practice room in the building that you're at if you can, or just go off to the side somewhere where you can really just stay away and just play really, really loud. Or if you're just doing something, if you are just more on a curiosity level, then just keep, try it in the room. And if you don't like it, just put it down and say thank you for letting me try it. Not really for me, Yeah, don't be afraid to say no to horn makers. They definitely want you to, commit on the spot, but it's a big investment, so you just got to be really sure that it's the instrument for you. So that's one thing. So you got to take it off to the side, play it low, high, loud, soft, and make sure it feels good. And then what I also recommend, if you have the opportunity, is take it into a either duet or quartet setting. Find some friends if you have anybody that you know, or just the fun thing about it being at a conference is you can just flag people down and be like, hey, can you read a quartet with me really quick? And make sure the instrument blends. So I have a story about this. So my teacher in my master's, Andy Pelletier, he told me one time about an instrument he really loved. He played it. He did it when he thought it. The instrument did it, and it was beautiful. But when he took it into a quartet, it didn't blend with anything. It didn't match. The intonation was terrible. So you want to make sure that those things are happening for you, because most of what we do on our instruments, unless you're one of the full-time professional players out there, or solo players, I should say, you're mostly going to be making your bread playing in ensembles. So make sure that the instrument matches well with other instruments. So outside of that, if you really love everything that the instrument is doing, then it's probably good for you. Then like I said, go ahead and make the purchase. Sometimes you can get away with doing a trial on an instrument, so make sure, or you can always ask the maker if they're willing to do that for you. If not, then you can keep shopping or just go ahead and make the decision right there.